Welcome to Episode X. That's right, this is our 10th episode, or Episode X. Join us in this very special episode as we pat ourselves on the back and discuss subjects such as large ships, the career accomplishments of Arnold Schwarzenegger, and debate over the Fast and Furious franchise. Are they more fast or more furious? You decide on Big Boys, Episode X.
Okay. This is episode 10. Episode X, man.
Our Episode X.
This is the X-rated one. You psyched?
I am for Episode X.
I gotta be honest, I'm more psyched about taking a little break after this, you know?
I kind of am too.
We've been going strong. We've been going 10 strong. We're almost we're ahead of the Fast and Furious movies. You know?
Yeah.
That's how strong we've been going in this family.
Oh yeah, in our family. I can only do that soft where you have to be like, it's family.
And this has been mostly for our family, this podcast. But yeah, well, obviously I'll need the time off to figure out the rest of my living situation. That apartment I was telling you about last time. It didn't, I don't have a sense of smell, but even I could tell you that the situation just didn't smell right. So I didn't go with that one.
Yeah, I don't blame you. But you got to figure something else out, or else the government will figure it out for you.
Ain't that the truth? Yeah, or at least certainly the landlord here. He'll figure out that I'm getting the fuck out of his building. And that's probably about as much thought as he'll need to put into it. But yeah, no, I'm going to probably, most likely I'm just going to need get a storage unit and place most of my stuff in there for the time being. And then, I don't know, I'll look at like maybe joining like a communal living type of situation for half a minute, Joining
a commune, basically. Okay.
I mean, I wouldn't really think of it that way because, if I'm going to go the route of joining a commune, I better not be getting charged rent, damn it.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm joining a commune, like my rent better be the mockery that comes with joining the commune. I feel like that's enough of a price to pay.
Yeah.
For joining but this would be like, essentially like what I meant by like communal living is like, you don't necessarily even have a room to yourself. You're basically, it's like bunk beds in a bedroom. So it would still be like, out here, I'd say roughly $600-700 a month. And then of course, you got to throw on top of storage unit fees. But yeah, I don't know, man. I'll look at some different options. There are some ones that claim to have like more artistic spaces where you can, record your podcasts and stuff from and all that. But, like I have a decent setup as it is. I just don't know that I would trust it to leave it out and about with people that I've never, met before.
No, I don't blame you.
So.
Especially you never know around some of those communities. I mean, they see here, You
just don't know in general, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
People are finicky, Yeah. Until they're finicky.
I definitely see that in my line of work. You just never know.
Yeah. Well, until those people are family, John.
Yeah, just tell them, be like, you're out of the family.
Yeah. There was a time I didn't know you either. In the second grade. That was a reference from the really actually somewhat decent first movie. I mean, it seems like a fucking art house film compared to the other 9 that have come since. But the Fast and the Furious.
They just went off the rails. Like the first one, I mean, at least it was a movie that was about like something. It was about like street racing and the whole like kind of criminal underworld sort of involved to some degree. Basically this crime ring of street racers. After a while, they just devolved into like, oh yeah, these are action movies with cars.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's so bizarre to say like, if you would have said in 2001, well, this movie is kind of based in reality, but by comparison to everything else that followed it, it is definitely the one is like the most, somewhat based in reality. These guys are not all essentially, superheroes that love to street race as well.
Yeah. Yeah. If you said like that movie was actually pretty realistic, you'd be like, are you insane? but yeah, now comparatively.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, still bizarre stuff of I don't see them getting away with like shutting down full, especially now that I live in LA. Like, no way in hell do you get away with shutting down complete like blocks in LA to do a street race, and it takes that long for the cops to get involved. Yeah, no. That they would be on that immediately. Because people around here like they get, and I am one of those people, but like you get to learn how frustrating it is when streets get closed down for filming out here. And so the second that somebody would sniff about like, wait, they're not even filming anything? Oh, we're getting this kid.
Oh, he's lifted.
Yeah.
That's it. We're calling the cops.
Precisely, man. So yeah, episode 10, man. It's
episode 10 or episode X.
That's right.
That's what I really want to stick with. Is episode X.
And then
kind of like Weapon X. How Wolverine, he was actually like the 10th experiment, but was thus labeled Weapon X.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's something there, man.
Yeah.
Well, once we do this, go ahead.
That program, that family of programs.
Was this is this Vin Diesel auditioning to replace Wolverine?
That would be hilarious. Vin Diesel auditioning to play Wolverine. Where he's basically just talking about like, hey Charles, he was like, if you take me in, I want to join the X-Men. You guys are like family.
If I knew more X-Men references, I would love to go further into that. But
honestly, if you go with that, with joining the X-Men and Xavier Institute and all that, there's the family jokes are just about endless.
Oh, for sure, man. Yeah. But I was just trying to
think there's a skit in there somewhere, like Vin Diesel auditioning for the role of Wolverine.
No, I don't want him audition. I want him cast. I mean, the man's past the point of auditioning for anything in his life. I don't think he's like, well, first he doesn't have to, but then also like, I don't think he's at a stage in his career where he gives a shit enough to want to audition. He would just move on to something else if he had to. But so yeah, they give the franchise over like 10 years, X years later. The franchise isn't doing so well. They got to reboot it. And who's the king of the franchise reboots? Maybe he's made up with The Rock. The Rock can be Professor Xavier.
Yeah. Well, here's my prediction. So, it seems to me now, and I'm double checking this as we speak. It seems outside of the Fast and or Furious movies, mostly what he's doing is like voice acting. So I think if they stop making those movies, that's probably where his career is going to mostly be, is like voice acting.
Oh, for sure. It's when you got so much range with this one nose, you would do all the voice acting that would just be thrown at you constantly. You could be an iron giant. You can be a tree. You can be family.
Yeah. Because I'm surprised I'm not seeing it here in his upcoming work, unless he's not going to voice Groot in Guardians 3.
I mean, dude, like that would have to totally be like his team getting involved to where they wouldn't be able to use his voice again, because he literally says one word. Like he's recorded it enough, let's face it, for all the movies by going to the booth for one day.
That's true, but then again, he would still be credited.
Well, that's my point. Is like, so like they have the materials they need for all the movies. It's just licensing his voice. So
that's my question then. And I'm actually looking at the cast for Guardians 3 here, and it says Vin Diesel is the role of Groot. But
yeah, that makes sense.
when I go to Vin Diesel's page and look up, oh, that's his producer. My mistake. That's the problem right there.
I just can't wait for in the future. I'm gonna give it 3 more decades. I'm gonna give it 3 more X's. And then, at some point, Olive Garden is going to be paying him when he's in his 70s or, well, I have no idea how old he is now. Dude, probably 80s.
He'd eat at Olive Garden. I'll tell you that right now. He's like, and he's like eyes squinting, kind of just that little bit of a smirk, like, when you're here, your family.
Bites into a breadstick.
Yeah. Fights The Rock. Yeah. Fights The Rock over the last breadstick, and that's when they come in and be like, silly muscle man is like, the breadsticks are endless, along with the soup. Yeah.
Just get the fuck out of my face, waiter. Yeah. You're not family.
I'm still convinced. It's my theory that the main reason that The Rock got into the series is because they were like, all right, we need someone more muscular than Vin Diesel. Yeah.
Well, that has been with the exception, I guess, of Jason Statham. But he meets the other quota, though, of it's either The Rock hit both quotas for, his nemesis has to be either another really big buff man or a bald man. And The Rock hit both.
Rock's both, yeah. Jason Statham is kind of the flip side of that coin because they introduced The Rock first. And so he was there's like, okay, now we got somebody who's more muscular. We have like an actual like bodybuilder kind of guy, not just a regular muscular guy.
Yeah.
And so but Jason Statham comes in and we're like, okay, this guy's smaller, but he's a martial artist, like in real life. So
yeah,
this is kind of the other, another angle we could go. And they're all bald.
They're all bald, my man. Yeah.
That's the connective tissue right there. They're all bald, and then there's just different angles. Yeah.
Well, again, they all blur together, but I would say when I really started enjoying it for the guilty pleasure that I get out of watching them, is I could even say that I could see that while watching Fast 5, I think it's when The Rock comes in. Like, you kind of suspect that his arc is going to be that, oh, well, they're going to eventually team up or whatever,
Yeah.
That seemed like that was already thought out. But like what they did with Statham and turning him into that just seems like a way afterthought, because fucking kills Han, right? Supposedly.
Yeah, somehow I think they've somehow retroactively brought Han back.
Oh, they have.
He's still showing up.
God, how many podcasts have we gone on talking about Fast and Furious movies? This is at least the second. If not the third. But it is part of our lives, man. Dude, think about it, man. Like we were, I think I saw I always get the Fast and the Furious mixed. I think I saw Too Fast, Too Furious in middle school in the theaters. I don't know if I saw The Fast and the Furious in a movie theater.
I certainly didn't.
Because that was 2000. Was that 2001 when The Fast and Furious came out?
It is, yeah.
Yeah. So think about how long that has been a part of our lives, literally since childhood, and we are 30-something-odd-year-old men, children.
Well,
and I say men, children, and I add children in there. And who do I blame for us still being children? The Fast and the Furious.
Fast and the Furious, yeah. Well, basically, they've been around longer for us than not. Because let's say, it came out in 2001.
Mm-hmm.
We were about 12 or 13. They've been around now, the franchise, for 22 years.
So, yeah, as far as franchises go that have ruled our existence since birth, The Simpsons.
That's what I was about to say. That, yeah.
Yeah. South Park, Family Guy, and then The Fast and the Furious.
Yeah, well, The Simpsons definitely. They premiered several months after I was born, so they've been around almost literally my entire life.
Right.
Actually, if you count the Tracy Ullman years, before.
Yeah, exactly. Before our time, for sure.
say what you will about the quality and all that, the modern episodes, but honestly, they're still pretty funny. Maybe not as good as they were, but still pretty funny. And I don't know, part of me will just always be a fan. I will always. I can't stand by some of the choices they've done recently, but I will always be a fan. And when the day comes that they finally go off the air, I'm going to have that single tear because I will now live in a world where The Simpsons is no longer airing on TV. Yeah.
Yeah. And well, if the market keeps continuing the way that it has been the past 15 years, they'd only be gone for a little while and they'd be coming back as a reboot. But
they may go to a streaming service. I mean, that's totally possible too. Be like they're no longer on network TV, but they're going to get picked up by a streaming service.
Yeah.
Well, I guess Disney owns them, so they would probably at that point continue on either Disney Plus or Hulu.
I mean, if they want to get edgier, they got to go to Hulu.
True.
Yeah.
But Disney's already showing them as is.
Do you have to? Is there like? I haven't really been on Disney Plus in a while, but is there like parental controls in regards to like watching The Simpsons versus other? Okay.
Originally, when Disney launched, they said it was going to be no more than PG-13 content. That's what they said, and because they own a majority stake of Hulu as well. That they because they had a piece. And Fox had a piece, and there's another company I can't think of. But basically, when they bought Fox, they got Fox's piece, and so they have a majority share of Hulu. And so it was kind of like, all right, cool. Basically, like the R-rated stuff will go on Hulu. PG-13 and under will be Disney Plus. But somewhere along the way, I guess they've scrapped that. Because now you have to like opt into the parental control or whatever to see R-rated content.
Well, I would look at it,
for example, the Netflix Marvel series, like Luke Cage and Defenders and them, that's on there now.
Yeah. Well, I think at the end of the day, what they realize is that you lose viewers or your viewership when you have people having to like move to different apps to watch your content. You know what I mean? If it's like they want to keep all that. Especially, I would think with like the Marvel Universe stuff, like they probably want to keep all of that under one, streaming service, which they still haven't even fully accomplished that. Because like the more hardcore Marvel stuff is actually still on Hulu. Like, did you ever watch that Jason Sudeikis animated series, Hit Monkey, which is actually pretty good?
No, I haven't.
But it is definitely TVMA stuff.
Okay.
Real bloody and a lot of fucks given.
Dude, speaking of TVMA and comics, I want another season of Invincible.
Yeah, man, it's coming. I'm sure it is.
I think it's in the works. It's just they've been taking their sweet time.
Well, Seth Rogen and his team, they, as you said, take their sweet time, but they get the job done, man. I haven't seen an episode.
I'm pretty sure COVID threw a wrench in things for a while. I'm trying to remember when season 1 came out.
It wasn't really that long ago, maybe 2 years ago at most.
Yeah, you're right. It was 2021.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I remember. Yeah, it wasn't too long ago. We were watching them together back in the old Louisville area.
Good times. I was very pleasantly surprised by that show. I mean, not that I really thought it was going to suck, but it was much better than I thought.
I know. I had to twist your arm to watch it, and I was like, "No, dude, this is right up your alley."
I guess you could call that a shortcoming of mine. Sometimes I just got to be in the mood, and sometimes it's like, yeah, that interests me. I'm just not really, That's why it's kind of like commitment issues, I guess.
Yeah, we could take it in that direction for sure. I was gonna say that hey, you're getting old and you're set in your ways, but no, I think that explains a lot, John.
Well, it is, and I think sometimes it's like, look, I just don't really want to have to use my brain that much. And I know that sounds weird. I don't know another way to explain it. It's like you get home from work, you're tired, you want to relax. It's like I'm not always in the mood to throw something on that I really got to like pay attention to and be invested in when I could just throw on old episodes of like Home Improvement, which I've been watching again, and like it doesn't really matter that much.
I understand. I don't necessarily know that I would use the word weird to describe a guy who didn't want to use his brain that much, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, most men out there will get it.
Yeah. I'm just weird. I just want to just shut off my brain and breathe out of my mouth.
Being in my bag. Basically ones that just whatever, you can usually throw them on. You'll be fairly happy, like Futurama, King of the Hill. It was Parks and Rec until they moved it to Peacock.
Bastards. Yeah. One of these days. There's actually, it looks like there's some really decent content on Peacock now, but like, again, every time I start considering that, I was like, I already pay for too many streaming services. I don't really even use that much, you know? And
it's basically, I'm just wondering how far we are away from reinventing cable.
We're there.
But what I'm saying is, like, where somebody's like, hey, don't subscribe to 7 different streaming services. Subscribe to mine, and for one fee, you can get – I mean, we kind of already have that through Amazon Prime. You can get the separate channels through there.
Mm-hmm. And Roku or YouTube TV or – it's what I'm saying. Like, we are kind of there, you know? It's not –
but Roku is just, like – basically what I mean is one interface.
That's what I'm okay. If you, so you may not know because I don't think you have a Roku TV, but if you have a Roku smart TV, you go to the Roku channel and you could add similar in the way that you can with Amazon, other channels through the Roku channel.
Because there are times for that I would love that. I would be like, you know what? I would like to be able to just browse, like be able to check mark the boxes and be like, all right, I have this, and this or whatever, and just show me all the content. And I'll just browse it all instead of being like, well, let me browse Netflix for 20 minutes. And then let me browse Hulu for 20 minutes. Then let me see what's on Paramount for 20 minutes. And then finally end up, and just watching a show you always watch, one of your in-the-bag shows, or going all the way back to Netflix and being like, all right, well, I guess I'll watch this, whatever the first thing that kind of piqued your interest was.
I didn't know that you can make watching TV sound more depressing than I already thought it was.
Unfortunately, that's where we are now. It's like online dating. I hate to say it. I mean, you're constantly basically swiping because you're like, oh, okay, I mean, that might be okay. But you're like, I'll keep scrolling and see if I can find something that looks a little more interesting or more into or whatever.
You really are. You're reading all the bios, seeing if it's enticing.
Exactly.
And then just endlessly scrolling and swiping, you know?
Uh-huh. Endlessly scrolling and swiping. Instead of just, it used to be like this is what's on TV, and you're like, okay, well, this is like the least objectionable thing, and you just watch it, and you were content with it. You had to be.
And how would you contribute that analogy to your dating?
Well, at least I can usually find something eventually to watch, or I've got the others that I usually watch waiting for me, you know. Whereas I have no women, so yeah.
Oh god, that's good. Just back in the old days. From that
what you will. I'm just saying, based on the analogy, that's the truth.
No, the truth that I'm thinking of is around the time that we went and visited Dylan and Chris Taylor, and they were all living in San Marcos.
Good times, yeah.
That was a good time where I got so sick.
Like 12 years ago now, almost. Goodness, time flies.
People don't forget.
Yeah.
But I almost fucking died from that trip. I got so sick. I mean, I didn't really die, but I had some severe allergies and sinus issues, and just looked worse every day because we were still just drinking every day, regardless. Like, I think Brian's getting sick. Here, let's get him another six pack.
I mean, face it. At the time, we were like 22.
Oh yeah. I just graduated college, and like I said, Chris and them there. You guys were all still in college, and I was just thinking about when we went to that Halloween party or bar hopping, essentially on Halloween.
Yeah,
and it was we were all kind of like paired off. Chris was talking with some girl. I was talking with some girl. Dylan was talking with some girl. Aaron was talking with some girl. And then here comes old John dressed as Ernest P. Worrell.
That was an excellent costume.
It was a great costume. And then like one sentence out of your mouth is all it took. They all left.
Yeah, good times.
Do you remember what the seminal sentence was that you said to Lloyd?
I was doing something about one of the girls dressed as Wonder Woman. I don't know why they hit those girls had rubbed me the wrong way. First off, I don't remember why, but they had. They were getting on my nerves. Yeah.
Care to clarify?
I honestly don't fully remember why. I just remember being bothered by them.
Mm-hmm. I think they picked up on it, John. I think they picked up on it.
Yeah. Yeah. See, it's communication.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They got the hint. They understood me without me having to outright say it. That's communication. People always say communication is key. I communicated. Yeah.
You sure did. You sure did.
Yeah. That's the way it goes.
And it's so weird. Like now, every time you come over and you want to watch Netflix, and then you say something into the voice to search option, and just like all my apps just pick up and walk away. And it's like I didn't even know they had virtual feet.
Yeah, now it's like wow, even my apps are walking away.
It's crazy.
Yeah, good times.
I'm just glad that you brought the analogy of watching your television choices to dating.
I brought it up to online dating.
Fair. Which is, what's the best way to describe it? I think created by the goddamn devil himself.
Yeah, I don't
for all genders across the board. We're getting
into what could potentially be more of like a deeper conversation here, but as great as the internet is, it's also been terrible for so many things, and I think dating is one of them.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, everything's so impersonal with everything else on the internet, and I'm just like, hey, why don't I try to meet somebody that I'll try to find that I like in the most impersonal place, on anything.
And you can constantly keep swiping. If somebody's just like, oh, somebody has a flaw, keep swiping instead of like the good old days where you had to meet someone, get to know them, and you'll find out they have a flaw, but you're like, you know what, they're cool, whatever. You had to. It was so much more personal, I guess. Instead of this way, you don't even know them. You just find some flaw.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, keep swiping.
Which, again, I don't want to dig ourselves a hole too much. I also understand in another regard, it's a hell of a lot safer than actual, just going up to random strangers, in that regard. It's better.
But I mean, it's much the same way as like meeting and making friends. Like you meet people and make friends. Like, it's just, to some degree, it's kind of the same as like, you meet people, you hit it off, I mean, what do I know? But,
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. All I was trying to say was that I'm
not trying to say that I'm just, so much more like intelligent or enlightened than anyone else. It's just, just something to think about.
Yeah, for sure. Something to think about while you're endlessly scrolling through your television options.
Viewers, if we have any, or listeners, if you would like to weigh in and let us know, please do. I don't know if that they can still leave us a voicemail on, I guess it's Spotify for podcasters now.
Oh, yeah. It's all the same. They just made the name way more complicated. It's still the same.
Spotify for podcasters, people. Yeah. Yes, please. Leave us a voicemail, please. Ideally, please, I would love a little bit of a nostalgic hint to it. If you could give yourself something like Sleepless in Seattle or something like that, Be like, hey, here's something about my dating life. Signed, Melancholy in Memphis or something like that, kind of like the old, relationship advice things. You remember that they would say to kind of be somewhat anonymous or whatever. Then they would be like, signed, it's like Curious in Columbus or whatever,
Dude, I'm digging the alliteration here. Was this much thought put into Sleepless in Seattle? Maybe I need to go watch Sleepless in Seattle.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, the first one was a ripoff from a movie, but I came up with the other two.
Those are good.
Yeah.
I also love the idea that you think this is going to be the one that finally gets people to leave us voicemails?
You never know, Brian. I mean, love is universal.
It is. Also, let's remind them that they can also leave us a message virtually. They can type out their alliteration at bigboyspodspot.com as well.
That might be better.
If you don't want to leave a voicemail where other people can identify you as a human being with your voice, that's also an option. But hey, if you want to get your voice out there, and God knows I know how that goes, then do by all means. Yeah, leave us a voice message. Yeah,
listeners are standing by.
You know they are. Oh man.
Or I guess here we go. Operators are standing by. That's the term.
I'm more like operator because I am too did I mention I'm trying not to be homeless? Operator is just you. I don't have time. Yeah. I don't have time to live out that song.
Yeah, I can't remember the rest though. Something about an operator.
It's we would have to ask Jim Croce. We have to consult with him.
Oh, that's who does that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's I almost said Gordon Lightfoot, but similar.
That would have been way off, I guess.
No.
Like I would have found that believable.
Yeah. He's having Gordon Lightfoot would be having a conversation with the operator about the Canadian Railroad.
Or he would be doing it about the Edmund St. James.
Yeah. I love that he I know that it probably doesn't line up, but I like to think that he heard that is it Led Zeppelin that has Stairway to Heaven?
Yes, it is.
It's like a 8-minute song. I just love the idea of Gordon Lightfoot. I heard that. I could do a long song too. Make a formative educational song about the building of the railroad in Canada. That's sure to be a hit.
I'm sorry, it was the Edmund Fitzgerald. I have to correct myself there. That was the name of the ship that sank.
Because everyone was following us with our Gordon Lightfoot factoids.
Yeah, Gordon Lightfoot had a song about it called the Edmund St. James. The Wreck of the Edmund St. James, to be correct. Here's what's cool, though. Another fun fact. A number of years ago, I went and visited the Soo Locks up in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, which is up in the Upper Peninsula. It's pretty far up there. You look on the other side of the locks, and there lies Canada. Yeah, America's movie set. And so it was cool. I saw Walmart Canada. I was looking with binoculars, and you could see the building with the spark, the logo, and then instead of an American flag, there was a Canadian flag on top.
Oh, okay.
There's Walmart Canada. And so, but anyway, when you're coming through, basically what these locks are is I think it connects Lake Huron and Lake Superior, if I remember correctly. And so, but there's a difference, like a drop off. And when they built these, they had to build these locks to level out the water level. So basically the ships come in and they raise the water level and it just sails out in the next lake. It's hard to explain on here. You'd almost have to see it.
Well, if only there was an educational song.
Only, like 9 or something of these freighters made. And they're all 750 to 1,000 feet long. They're huge. And the Edmund Fitzgerald was one of them. And it sank, but we got to see one that was in that class. It came through when we were up there. And goodness, it was huge. When you first see it, you're I don't even know if it's going to fit through. But it did. And it was kind of cool to be able to see in person.
Well, operator, this is Jim Croce. Get me Gordon Lightfoot to finish telling the rest of that story.
Yeah, I mean, there's a little fun fact about one of your hosts here. Something I've experienced.
Dude, yeah, I'd love to get out there at some point when my probation green lights me to leave the county. Oh, my God. I just all right, one step at a time, Brian. I got to make sure I get my next joint figured out. I have a meeting to do more fingerprint stuff, to do more Minority Report for the probation office. Yeah, and then I should finally get my final probation officer. Because I didn't realize when I was being put in the system that going through probation was like playing Mario, when you just had to, or Sonic, more accurate. You had to just go through all these different levels of bosses.
Yep, right here. This is the one that we saw. It was called the Edwin H. Gott, 1,004 feet.
God damn.
That's a huge ship. That's even bigger than the Edmund Fitzgerald. It was 729.
I feel like this is podcast material adjacent.
For all of our boat fanatics out there, if people like to hear discussions about large or tall ships, please let us know how you feel. Chime in. Maybe you can tell me something I don't know.
I was going to say that maybe not for this man I'm thinking of directly, but I'm sure that he's got a friend that is like as Steven's dad, Orville is into trains. Like he's for sure.
What is it? It's like, here's my 100 years of ships video.
Yeah. In the middle of a graduation party.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Surely. Surely Orville Word has a ship. Yeah.
And I can't remember which one of us it was. Somebody made a joke about him being over there in his him be like, oh, there while his dad watches trains videos. And then the time we were there, that's when he was like, oh, here's my 100 years of trains video.
Yeah. Don't you love it when people just? I mean, he's a great guy, but when sometimes like people just walk into being the cartoon characters you personify them as.
Yeah, and that was one of those moments where it was like, oh, yeah, perfect.
Yeah, it was too much. And then he plumb forgot who I was after knowing for well over a decade. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you love those wards. Ain't seen him in a minute, but I imagine he's still having a hoot and hollering time watching those 100 years of trains. And hey, Orville, if you're somehow listening to this, John also has some factoids about ships for you as well.
Just in case you like, well, I don't know. I'm going to guess ships are his number 3 because I know he likes the planes a lot.
If you heard our last episode, you'll even figure out a way how to transfer this podcast to a VHS tape so you can put it right up next to your 100 years of trains.
Maybe the more we talk about ships in this one, it'll help it qualify, and he'll be like, you know what? That's exactly what I'm going to do.
That is the one.
His ships video collection.
Mm-hmm. And that is the one demographic we're lacking. Like we have, some listeners and the 60 to, age higher listeners, which I assume are just my parents and maybe your parents. So, I want us to get more followers for our account to ensure that we get paid our monetization money.
That would be nice.
So maybe we start making some more content for our senior citizen class. I could
like maybe we could do an episode on like stars of the silver screen from like the golden age of cinema.
You would think I would actually have some content ready for that, but I don't.
Yeah, I was mainly thinking, just I don't know if I had the golden age and all that right, but mainly thinking guys like Humphrey Bogart, and we could call an episode like "Here's Looking at You, Kid."
There you go.
And then maybe do an episode on Jimmy Starr. On and Clarence Angel. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Or Rock Hudson.
That's about all I got. Yeah.
I can't do a good. I used to think I could do a decent Jimmy Stewart, but I haven't done it in a minute. I'm kind of thrown off by yours.
Yeah, mine's okay. It's
you
know who it is.
Exactly. Yeah. Also, another when we're talking about when people are kind of more of the cartoon character or become more of the cartoon characters you make him out to be. Talk about him going in the opposite direction. That guy was a badass in real life. Jimmy Stewart.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And how he like signed up for World War II and was like a captain on a plane or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like went over bombing runs.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't just sign up like a lot of the other celebrities did and do like training videos, movies.
Yeah, like
propaganda movies, whatever you want to call them. No.
It was no John Wayne.
Bombing missions.
Yeah. I mean, he's probably the one guy that John Wayne would not call a pussy.
Yeah. Well, as much as I like the Duke, there's, and I'm not educated enough to look into it. Some people say he avoided signing up.
Mm-hmm.
I've also read that he wanted to, but he wasn't able due to a shoulder injury, which is actually the reason that he got into acting instead of playing football, because he injured a shoulder.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know exactly which is true.
Yeah, I can't.
So much goes around about him now, and I don't know fact from fiction. And I, surprisingly enough, knowing me, haven't sat down and really dived into John Wayne.
That's a fair point. I was going to start ripping on him, but as you just stated, I really don't know enough about the guy. Let him rest.
I mean, I really enjoyed a number of his movies.
Yeah. He was a good pilgrim.
Like that, my dad still remembers where he was when he heard John Wayne died. Yeah.
Where was he?
I want to say he was doing something up in Montana. He remembers, I don't.
Mm.
Yeah.
So his version, or my version of that would be, I remember where I was when I heard Norm Macdonald died.
Yeah.
I was at a machine shop. It's the beginning, middle, and end of that story.
Honestly, I mean, do we have actors like that anymore? And I don't necessarily mean war, but like guys like Jimmy Stewart and John Wayne that just were like larger than life. Like, I mean, we kind of have them now, but if
we do, but we just have more up
to a degree.
No,
like even going back as like Schwarzenegger in like the 80s and 90s, that was seen as kind of hokey. I think a lot of people, obviously, they made tons of money off of it.
I think there still are those, I mean, Adam Driver's a vet, right? I don't know what he did, but there's also the guy his name escapes me, but he's hilarious. I love everything he's in. But he was a combat vet. What is his name? But you remember Step Brothers, right?
Yeah.
He's the guy that is working with Will Ferrell's brother, and he's just like, I don't know what it is about your face, but I just.
Oh, you're talking about Rob Riggle.
Yes.
Yes, yeah. He was a Marine.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. So I mean, they're still out and about, but also, as I was saying, like there's a hell of a lot more actors now than there was.
Well, I don't necessarily mean just.
And there's a lot more content, a lot more platforms.
I just mean ones that were like. Just like so huge, like they were just completely.
Oh, I see.
Became part like the Michael Jordans of the silver screen. Like they became just part of like the zeitgeist.
No, that doesn't. I mean, I think it's a good thing. It gives me more of a shot, right? But at the same time, no, that period of time is dead. There's too much content now.
That's probably what it is there's just so much competition, especially not just studios, but like the internet, YouTube and other things. I mean, some people don't even hardly watch movies or TV anymore. They just watch like stuff on the internet.
Well, yeah, there's this form of content, right? So there's new various ways of content. And also the technology is so vastly different. TV was looked upon as a lesser form of content than film, because obviously when at the beginning of television did not look as good as films, as 35 millimeter films. Now there is literally, unless you're Quentin Tarantino, you're just going back to 35 millimeter for, just whatever reason. The cameras are the same. It's all video. It's all super, super high tech, super high definition video. and that's across the board for film or television. So therefore, there's no discrepancy. That's not hell. Like even big stars now do like commercials. There's none of that stigma of that. Which again I think is a great thing. But it's like, but there's still what you're saying. There's not going to be like a last. The last big movie stars are dying out. We have essentially Tom Cruise, and I think like the youngest version of that is probably Leo DiCaprio or Johnny Depp. Or I guess Leo would be younger, yeah.
Yeah, it seems like other people get big, but they kind of don't get big into the like, man, everybody knows who that is. Like, you get people that get big, like, you know who they are if maybe you're into those kind of movies or whatever, you know? Like,
well, I mean, even strictly that are just movie stars. They don't do television. They don't do other, like, commercials. Like, even Stallone, you're watching a show right now or something, aren't you? Like, I haven't checked it out, but like,
yeah, you're right. He's doing a series now.
Like for me, I was like, wow, that's how you know the times are changing. Like Stallone is doing television now.
Has Schwarzenegger done a series yet? I don't think so.
No, but I don't think he's against it. I mean, but he's also
he's got so much other stuff going on too.
Yeah, Schwarzenegger has the cool angle of he's, I want to say, hipper, to new technology. Like he was doing like YouTube stuff, back in the day when he decided he was going to get back in, like, so he knows, like, I was going to say, kind of similar to Will Smith, if we could just ignore the whole Oscar fiasco, but like Will Smith was, kind of more aware of, content creating, content creators becoming more popular, and like he was one of the first guys to, like, big name stars, I guess, to like basically start what's the word I'm looking for here? I guess be an influencer.
Yeah. Schwarzenegger is definitely, especially for somebody who's a bit older, he's definitely a little more in tune with that, it seems. Like I know he's done several like Reddit AMAs. He's done quite a bit on YouTube and some other things. I want to say he had a thing a while back where he was just like saying all of his one-liners. Like people would request them and he would just be like, "I'll be back, Bennett." And
yeah. Which I think, okay, so if we're going to get into divulge into that, I think the difference between him and Stallone is like, I think Stallone loves the work. You know what I mean? I think he loves making movies and now maybe TV shows. Like, I think he enjoys that process, which I'm not saying that Schwarzenegger doesn't as well. I think the main key component of the difference there is that I think if we're putting it in tiers of what's more important to them, I think being in the public eye is more important to Schwarzenegger than, having new projects out.
Well, and he kind of has like it's a little bit more going on, I guess you'd say, like, because he's still got like some of the fitness festivals. Like there's the Arnold Classic every year that's named after him, obviously, but I think he's still involved. He at least makes appearances and stuff.
Yeah.
I think he's got kind of a, I'm trying to think of the right word, but basically he does stuff for the environment now.
Yeah, but I mean that's all.
That's push that.
I would still, I mean, these are all great causes, but I would still say that's under the sphere of being in the public eye. Whereas, and I'm a fan of both of them, but just for the sake of us bullshitting through this conversation, whereas Stallone is more artistically driven. You know what I mean? Like, has Schwarzenegger directed anything? No. Has he written anything? No.
He's directed one thing.
Really?
And it was a pile. I've never seen it, but I read about it, and it was actually like a Christmas romantic comedy or something like that.
Really?
It's the only thing he's ever directed. Yeah.
Well, dude, drop it on me because I've never heard of this. What is it called?
I gotta look it up now.
I swear to God, if you say Jingle All the Way, my head is going to explode. Yeah. So I need Sinbad.
I read one thing about it, and it was like I think it was another Cracked article. It was about like terrible projects by people who excel at other things. something like this.
The studio must have really buried it then, because I swear to God, I've never heard of this. You know, it's like, was it released? That's a good question, because, you know,
it might have been like a made for TV or something like that. Or at least that might have been where it ended up.
I don't know, dude. Like, sometimes you hear like the lore of like some projects that were tested so poorly, or, you know, like the thing that comes to mind is back in the day when I first moved to Dallas, like, and this was a huge thing of like Ryan Gosling was finally going to make his directorial debut, and like he was seeing all these young actors and stuff. And then a guy from Dallas came really close. Anyways, he ended up eventually moving out to LA, and he's in stuff now. He's in, I was going to say not Home Improvement, but Tim Allen's newer show, Last Man Standing. He's like one of the girlfriend's boyfriends. But anyways, I digress. Like this was like the talk of the town, you know, this Ryan Gosling directorial debut. But then it premiered at, I want to say Cannes, you know, however you say it.
Yeah.
And like the audience reacted so negatively to it, like booing it. Like they never, like the studio or whoever funded never released it. It has never seen the light of day since that festival. So I'm wondering if this Schwarzenegger film you're telling me is something similar in that regard.
Well, from what I'm seeing here, it's the only movie he's ever directed. I didn't know this. Apparently, he also directed one episode of Tales from the Crypt.
Wow, dude. Yeah. I mean, maybe I should do some motherfucking homework before I open my mouth, because I am being blown away here. He's directed not one, but at least two things.
I'm trying to see what year though. Okay, one thing at a time here. So the movie he directed that I was talking about was called Christmas in Connecticut in 1992, and it had none other than Chris Christopherson.
Okay, all right. I like where this is headed. I like his casting choices so far.
Yeah, and it's a TV movie. I was right. It says TV movie. Whether or not that was the original plan, or if they were like, that's the only place this is going.
Even in 91, where, you know, Chris Christopherson's career may have not been that hot, I still don't see him doing a TV movie. Well, maybe, I don't know. I was just saying that.
92?
It's hard.
But it says Elizabeth, a star of a successful cooking show, is set to do a live show on Christmas where she'll cook a Christmas dinner. But what no one knows is that she can't cook. That's the description on IMDb.
Arnold, we're so glad that you chose our studio to be the first one that you come in and pitch this. I just wonder if there's more of an angle we could throw at this, at your directorial debut. Like, audiences are going to be excited. Schwarzenegger behind the camera, you know, lending all the expertise that he's learned over the past, you know, couple decades. And I just feel like there could be a bigger arc for this character rather than this lady who has a cooking show and doesn't know how to cook. Like, what other whimsical things do you have on the docket for us, Arnold? And please do speak as Arnold.
Okay, I'm trying to see here. So it seems like this was two things that he was maybe trying to kind of also get a directing career going, and that probably just completely tanked it. Because the episode,
could you
want to look it up? Tales from the Crypt, called the episode from season 2, episode 2, The Switch, April 21st, 1990, directed by Schwarzenegger. The movie I'm talking about, Christmas in Connecticut, 1992, and he's never directed a single thing since.
Okay, yeah. So. Now, I'm talking directly to Arnold Schwarzenegger here. Could you, Mr. Schwarzenegger, enlighten us as to why you chose that to be your last directorial picture?
My guess, he didn't choose it.
Could you try to do your Arnold impersonation? Do I have to say it?
Okay. I thought you were just putting it out there for Arnold. I didn't know you wanted me. Okay, all right.
John, take one improv class. Take one improv class. That's all I ask.
Yeah. course, maybe you'd just be like, well, I just felt that, the way movie came out, that, that not only could I act and flex my biceps on screen, but, that I would also be a fantastic director. And so, I've always loved the Christmas time ever since I was a little boy in Graz. That when I came to America, I always said, once I am Mr. Olympia, I would also be a fantastic director, as I was a fantastic bodybuilder. Yeah, so and after that, I felt I had nothing left to prove in the world of directing. So, and I got to direct the great Chris Christopherson. I've always been a fan of his music. In the movie Convoy.
Well, once again, Arnold, that's what an interesting display of your intelligence and your thoughtfulness, and the amount of just work we would have believed you put into this project if we hadn't seen the dailies, which are god awful.
There.
Yeah. We just wanted to know that.
Yeah, so I find that funny. So yeah, he did direct one thing, but I don't think he's ever really gotten into writing or anything the way Stallone has.
No.
Certainly not as successfully. I'm not going to say never because,
Dude, see if you could that book we were talking about last time. I'm sure he did it with a ghostwriter, but could you figure out what was the name of that book for me real quick?
What book?
I'm pretty sure he wrote a book, like it was kind of like a tell-all kind of thing, but he was doing it, or the way that he was promoting it was kind of like as an apology to Maria. And like this was obviously so long ago. I just remember seeing it on some late night and just like, wow, this is quite a bizarre thing to behold. That said,
his daughter has a book called The Gift of Forgiveness by Katherine Schwarzenegger.
Okay. And do you think he was maybe promoting that book? Because that's actually a more interesting angle to go with.
That's totally possible.
Like
she's actually an author. She's done a number of books.
Is this the same one that's married to Chris Pratt?
Yeah. Now it's Katherine Schwarzenegger Pratt.
Okay.
Oh, this must be relatively new book because that's how she's credited on the cover. I'm looking at it on Amazon. Katherine Schwarzenegger Pratt.
I see. Okay. Well, I mean, this one came out relatively soon after the whole thing came out in the public, and who knows if like maybe his PR team kind of knew that this was like going to be coming out to the public, and he had some time to prep before. I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, he's got one here. This is from 2013, so that would have been a couple years after. It's called Total Recall: My Unbelievably True Life Story.
That was it. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
I want to check that book out eventually.
Here's an enhanced edition. Oh, cool. I don't know how it's different, but excuse me, they have one.
What? So he's got like a second edition of this book, or
I guess so.
Did he bring the deleted scenes angle to publishing?
Oh, maybe it's just the Kindle edition.
Okay. Does that mean like he reads it or something? Like he does like an audible reading?
It says Kindle edition with audio and video. I hope he's actually there recording it like, hi, everybody. Let's read the book about my unbelievably true life.
Speaking of Total Recall and him reading, but like, have you ever heard snippets of him talking about like, or doing, what's the terminology I'm trying to use here? But he is talking, like telling you about the movie as the movie's going. What the hell is that called? Jesus Christ, I'm having such a brain fart.
What?
He's doing commentary on Total Recall. Like it's one of the like DVD special features. It's, do yourself a favor, look it up on YouTube. Some of the greatest golden stuff of like him talking about like And it's been so long, I can't really remember, but I'm just thinking about that movie and just like, this is what I look and I notice she has 3 breasts and I look and I have this weird face because I've never seen 3 breasts before. And it's just great. Like,
I can actually really picture that.
Yeah. Just him walking you through Total Recall, some of the best movie commentary there is around. You know, I would posit that is, probably it goes for any movie of his that he commentates on. Like I'd be there for him giving some commentary on Jingle All the Way or Commando or any of that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He is another one of those guys that I have been a fan of since I was a kid. That don't even want to say it, but you know, when the unfortunate day comes, it'll be like, I now live in a world without Arnold Schwarzenegger. And that I may have to take a personal day.
I was going to say, we're definitely going to have a moment of silence on this podcast when that. Let's take one. Let's take one now. This is a moment of silence they took on the podcast because they thought about me dying and it was too overwhelming for them. Kind of like when I.
The part when he's doing our commentary on our podcast. Yeah. Right now they're doing a moment of silence for me, just in case something ever happens. They're big fans. And,
it's too much for them to think about my passing. Somewhat.
I just think this moment is absolutely fantastic.
Kind of like when I saw the 3 breasts in Total Recall. It was just fantastic.
To me, fantastic is the word. That's very much a key to a Schwarzenegger impression.
Yeah.
Because listen to whenever he's talking. Not only have I heard him say the word a lot, but just the way he says it.
I think that's strictly for you, though. I mean, like, I can get there if I take a minute and like really work on it before like recording it, but like off the cuff, like all my impressions are just garbage, you know. Like, but if I take a minute to like kind of just, you know, see how they're speaking in the cadences and the voice and the rhythms of it, like I can get better at it. For example, I have I have to imitate a celebrity for an audition that I got to do by Monday, and of course it's an audition, so I can't talk anything about it. But let's just say it is definitely far-fetched from my voice.
Yeah. See, and I think the hardest thing to do is, well, and I guess this is with everybody, but definitely Schwarzenegger is just like him just regularly talking. Everybody can kind of do the over the top and like get to the chopper.
See, I think I get more, and I actually heard somebody doing an impression and then saying it, and like I kind of agree with him. Like I feel like I can get better as Arnold. Like the more, like as I was saying, he's so pompous. Like the more smug I get, like the better I can get that. And like, oh god, it's just so terrible now.
Yeah, like where he's getting kind of smug and he's like, he's like, it feels better than comedy.
Yeah. Lou, you're gonna wear silver so good. Yeah. I don't know what accent I was doing there. Listeners, viewers, don't judge my poor impressions.
This episode X will go down as not only our 10th episode, but maybe the fun fact episode. Because here's another fun fact about Schwarzenegger. He was not allowed to do the German dub for the Terminator because I guess where he's from to the German ear, he's got like a rural accent. And so they thought, you've got this futuristic killer cyborg. If he came back sounding like a country hick, it would be ridiculous.
Yeah, that is pretty funny to think about.
Yeah.
I wonder how they broke that news to him. There's no way you can hear that and take that well. Like I wouldn't take that well if somebody told me I couldn't do, you know, an American accent of, you know, if I knew how to speak another language, but they're like, oh, you can't do the American accent because you sound too much like a goddamn hillbilly.
Yeah, it's like, no, yeah, you sound too Southern. So
yeah,
like, all right.
Which is pretty hilarious because when I talk to people around here, they like 9 times out of 10 they think I'm from up north. And then, I feel
like I don't have much of a Southern accent, which sometimes I kind of regret. You know, because I mean, I guess not much I can do to help it, but unless I just purposely started going around and talking, like.
I mean, we can get a draw going if we need to. Like, I think you and I, we can fall back into the.
Oh, you know, you you can kind of lean into it some, you know. And,
yeah. Yeah, I think we could do it. Yeah.
But then again, I think if you were to go to another part of the country, they would probably notice. Like, they may not be able to guess, like, oh, you're from Texas, but
I think it's more
from around here.
I think it's the word choices, you know, and I think that's really the telltale of like any, you know, portraying any good accent well. It's not necessarily like because I've had to do a couple of different ones. Like I had to do like kind of an older Cockney one. And once again, I've had to do it off the top of my head and be very poor. But if I'm reading a script and I see like the way that it's worded, that usually informs the voice more for me. You know what I mean? Like, so as in like a Southern thing, if there's y'all versus you all or you guys, I think that kind of informs more of where you're from. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. Like Texas is very known for y'all. But also when you say a Southern accent, they're not all the same either.
No.
Like somebody from Texas is going to sound a bit different than like maybe somebody from Georgia per se. They're gonna sound a little bit different. And I'm probably not doing a great one, but
no, you're not. But
versus somebody from Louisiana, there's going to be quite a bit different too. There's going to be kind of more of that Cajun, and I'm again, especially right off the cuff. Like I know neither of those are great, but
yeah. All right, Steven Seagal, keep wilding us with all your different Louisiana accents.
Yeah.
But I was going to even say as far as because Texas is such a huge place, you go to different parts of Texas and you'll hear different accents. Like I could say.
That's true.
Like an East Texas accent is different than where we grew up in, North Texas. Like I couldn't describe it to you, but if I heard it, like that guy's from East Texas,
Yeah, East Texas is definitely going to be different. It's got its own flavor for sure.
Which I wouldn't even, because even though McConaughey is from that area, I wouldn't necessarily say that like he's got like a strong East Texas accent, because I just like I don't know, it's a peculiar one. Like, if you ever watched that movie called Bernie? Oh yeah, we went to the premiere.
Yeah, we went. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like those guys. That is the definition of an East Texas accent. All the people that are from East Texas that they interview interlace with the actual movie.
Yeah, and most of those are actual residents.
Yeah. And they filmed. Not in the one that I worked at, but there's only like 4 or 5 jalapeno trees in the world. And they're all located in East Texas for the most part. I think there was like one in North Texas, but most of them are in East Texas. So when I saw that they were eating at the jalapeno tree and they said it, and I was like, this is
cool.
Yeah. It's like they're visiting one of my nightmares, Yeah.
I would have to dig through all my glasses, but I might still have a jalapeno tree glass that I somehow ended up with when you moved out years ago.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what you're talking about. On this recorded episode, there was, if there was a jalapeno tree glass that you somehow ended up with, it certainly didn't come from me directly, or if I did, I bought it and the receipt got lost somewhere. I would never just take a glass.
Well, I remember you saying you bought it at the time and everything.
I did. Legit. Yeah. Exactly.
And I thought, there's no sense hanging on to the receipt for years and years.
Right. And I was showing you the receipt book.
That's your problem.
It's just pages and pages of my receipts, and then like, oh no, there was a trash can fire right there, and just like
nothing you can do.
Classic.
Unfortunately, you can't insure that kind of thing.
You can't. And I remember saying, you remember me saying that. I was like, this was my only copy. Oh.
Well, and even then, if you did insure it, what are they going to do? Magically conjure up a new receipt? And it doesn't work that way.
That's not how paper works. You can't just manufacture more. What are they going to do? Like save the logs on computers? Crazy.
I mean, you really think they still have a copy of that? No. And there's no.
Do I even really think they remember me working there anymore? No. Yeah. Do I think that jalapeno trees still exist? Maybe.
We're going to find out.
Let's find out real quick.
I kind of want to eat there.
Dude, great. I mean, like it's I was going to say it has a sentimental value, the taste of the food there. Like it's a decent Mexican food restaurant. I'm not going to say it's the best ever, but it was, it reminds me of a simpler time.
Yeah, here we go. We're getting into the East Texas locations now. We got Tyler, Marshall, Longview, Kilgore, Henderson, Nacogdoches. There you go, the one.
There we are. That's the one I was at.
Jacksonville? Maybe there's a Jacksonville, Texas?
Dude, there is an everything Texas. There's a, obviously there's a Paris, Texas. There's a Rome, Texas. There's a Paradise, Texas. There's a Liberty City, Texas. I think there might even be a New York, Texas. You know what I mean? So if there's a Jacksonville, Texas, which now that you're saying it, I think that is East Texas as well. I may have driven through there.
See, that's the thing. I don't know exactly where the line of like when East Texas begins, because if you look at a map, like the DFW area is actually relatively east.
Well, I would say that Tyler, if we're going in that direction, I'd say Tyler is where it begins, and then Huntsville is where I would say it ends, because that's closer towards the Houston area, which I guess Houston could be argued. I don't know. Again,
I would argue Houston that you're starting to get to the really the southeast because you're getting to like the coast.
Yeah.
I guess maybe you could go to Houston, looking at a map here, and maybe draw a line roughly straight up from Houston. A little further over. Maybe around like Canton.
Sounds like a job for Gordon Lightfoot. If we had a Texas version of Gordon Lightfoot, he would definitely have an 8-minute song about this is where the lines are for East Texas from Tyler. Where the strip club starts is where East Texas begins.
Now, granted, they do have a location up in Denison, which is far north Texas, like almost to the Oklahoma line, like just a little bit south of Durant. Oh,
yeah.
My camera here they're just hearing me talk. They're not seeing my beautiful face.
I think it got shook by my incredibly accurate impression of Gordon Lightfoot.
I think so. We all got lost in that, to be honest with you.
I imagine Gordy himself was listening to this and just like, oh, somebody's taking over
Gun
my
Barrel
voice.
City, which is possibly the coolest name for a town I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah. Is that
Palestine, Mount Pleasant, Mineola.
Mm-hmm.
That's when you're starting to kind of get East Texas-ish.
Yeah, so that's definitely a sketch. Just Gordon Lightfoot has to write a song about all the East Texas locations of jalapeno tree in the similar vein of him educating about the making of the railway or the history of the rail line in Canada.
Well, we're about to look at the jalapeno trees reviews here.
All right. Yeah, let's hit them up with these. Let's end our X here, our episode X, with these reviews. And
well, they've got a 4-star on their Facebook page, so that's something. But on Yelp, they only got 3.
Uh-oh.
But that's Yelp.
Let's if we could find a couple of 1-star reviews real quick. I'm more interested in that.
Well, let's take a look. I think we could do that, maybe.
It'd be great if you could actually search by date.
This is on the Facebook page.
Oh, okay. I'm waiting with anticipation.
Oh, there it goes. We're at a 5. Will it not let me filter the stars?
I don't know, buddy. I don't know how Facebook reviews work.
Okay, well, that's annoying. So to Yelp it is.
Okay, well, it'd be cool though if you could actually find a way to search by year. And if you can find your way into 2009, 2010, I'm sure you'll probably find a review or two of me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, here's a 1-star, but it's recent. It's from 2022 in Canton.
Oh boy.
I've been going to from Karen, as if that's not funny enough.
Wow.
I've been going to the Jalapeno Tree in Canton, Texas, about once a month since they opened. I'm sorry to say they have gone downhill. Went Thursday night, order. Yeah, okay, and she can't type. Went Thursday night, order to build your own 2 chicken enchiladas. The enchiladas only had about a tablespoon of chicken in them. I complained to the very nice waitress. She went to the kitchen. The kitchen manager said, "That's what you get." That's pretty much all one sentence. You would think that for $12, $13 for 2 chicken enchiladas, you would get more than a tablespoon of chicken.
God, I miss Texas and the logic of you definitely. I mean, well, I kind of agree in some regard. Maybe she got shorted on her chicken, but the different mindset of the food out here. First of all, everything is just more expensive. It's LA, you gotta just kind of accept that. But I miss the gluttony that is, inferred when you go out to eat at a restaurant in Texas. Like you're gonna live here, you're gonna leave this restaurant feeling pregnant, or you didn't get your money's worth.
Yeah.
Versus out here, it's kind of like, don't you feel healthy? Didn't that soothe your body? Like, well, I kind of don't feel like like my pants are just gonna, explode because my gut's impregnated. I don't know. It's like it's a weird. I don't feel like that. I got the same bang for my buck, I guess is what I'm saying. Although I may live longer.
Were yours 1-star reviews by chance?
Oh, I would say allegedly. There's probably a few on there.
Well, let's see if we can go back here.
Is there a way you could search it? Because
2017. That's far back as it lets me go.
Yeah, and you're in Canton too, so that's not. I was in that. It was just. Yeah. Well, anyways, this is episode X, man. We made 10 of them.
Episode X. Achieved.
We're gonna take a couple weeks off. We're gonna regroup. Maybe you're gonna get some short form stuff done. I'm gonna leave it to you.
All right.
I task you with that challenge. And we're going to come back in a couple weeks stronger than ever. Okay?
All
right, buddy. Take care.
All right, we'll see you.
Yeah. If I don't see you, I'll see you. Well, how about that for a 10th episode, dear listener? Hey, gang. Gonna change up the format for this 10th and first episode season finale for us, for a litany of reasons. This is gonna be our last episode for at least a few weeks, as I'm trying to figure out my living situation here. And also, I just kind of want to put a book in. Certain stuff I was, I foreshadowed about in episode 1, and in regards to how I got on probation, I realized I only kind of let the cat halfway out of the bag. I didn't let it get its full meow, and I kind of just want to clarify everything, and just so I can kind of put it to rest for the most part. And if anybody has any other questions, I can always just revert them back to this episode, this last bit here. So yeah, as let me just start from where I'm at right now. I am 7 months sober, as long as I've had of continuous sobriety, over trying to obtain it for over the past 2.5 years. Start out in the beginning. I guess I kind of hits what most people on the program refer to as rock bottom. Back at the end of 2019. Right, when coming into when COVID was about to happen, which was just a delight for my ego, because if everything's going downhill for me, it only makes sense that the world should follow suit. I by the way, I want to preface this that I, I'm open about working, the program of AA, but I don't consider myself like as an ambassador for the program, or like, I wouldn't even go as far as to say, certainly don't do what I've done. And I wouldn't even go as far as to say, don't even do what I say. If you're struggling with alcohol or drugs, all I can say is that there are good people in there, and then certainly out here in LA that can really, help show you the ropes and put your feet in the right path. But yeah, I'm not a spokesperson for AA or any program advocating sobriety. It's something that I personally kind of had to come to grips with myself, and I certainly don't judge anyone for not wanting to be sober or for those that want to do it in a different way. So with that put to rest, at the end of 2019, my short marriage ended, and now that's not the reason. I'm not putting that that instance as for the reasoning for my as to why I became an excessive drinker and drug user. I think that's something that I've slowly kind of built up over the years, and that was going to come to a breaking point regardless of whether or not I had a marriage ending or if I didn't. All I'll say is that I used that catalyst as an excuse for my behaviors. I thought those were good enough reasons. My marriage ending and the way that it ended, which I'm not going to go into because I personally don't think that's anyone else's business other than mine and my ex-wives. And I love my ex-wife as a person. I think she's a great human being, and it would be unfair for me to go into that personal business without consulting with her first. I certainly don't want to paint myself as a hopeless victim, or her as like, some non-human-like monster, because that's just simply not the case. We unfortunately had irreconcilable differences, and it was hard for us both to come to terms with that, and it was a struggle. I know for me, I imagine the process of getting a divorce was not easy on her. So I'm not saying any of this either to place blame on anyone. I'm just simply saying, trying to fill in the blanks of how I got from seemingly being a normal person on the surface who didn't have a record and, by all other accounts, was a quote unquote normal guy. When that marriage ended, shortly before my 31st birthday, I definitely became more unwound. And again, this is no one else's fault other than my own. But as I said, I definitely used that as an excuse for any bad behavior I partook in the future. And there are certainly, I'm sure, a handful of people that would be willing to back that up. As I definitely burnt some bridges in the process. And, in the future, I'm looking to try to make amends with those people. Again, I don't know when that's going to be. Right now, I'm waiting to find out when I can actually leave LA County. So it's going to be a minute before I could make some of those amends in person with people in Texas. And that's all assuming that they would want to meet with me to do that. But yeah, I got unraveled at the end of 2019. I had lost my job a few months before that marriage ended. And I was doing DoorDash stuff, which unfortunately just was not really paying anything more than my my drug habit and drinking habit. So eventually I had to move back in with my parents. I did that, and I feel so much for those. I love those. I love my parents so much for putting up with me in that process of. I had essentially just kind of given up on life, if I'm being particularly honest. It was not a fun experience for them. I know that for sure. After, just wallowing in my own self-pity for a few months, my father, who's been working machine shops all my life, was able to hook me up with a job working in a machine shop that he used to be a supervisor at. Ironically, back when I was in high school. But he still had a good relationship with those people. So I got that job through nepotism. Ha ha ha. Inside joke. It's not necessarily a job that you need to have nepotism to get into. It was it's a skill crap. Like, you don't have to. I was overqualified for that position. But with that said, it's not an easy trade. You definitely have to hone skills and all that. So I did that for a minute. And while I did that, I bought some drugs from a unnamed drug dealer in 2020. I was buying some pills that I thought were essentially, I thought they were Adderall. And this is where I got to swallow my pride and just be honest. Because as much as I want to be angry at the guy who sold me the pills, it's not like I was going out and testing and confirming to make sure that they were what he said they were. And who knows how far up the chain it goes of him not asking questions and the guy that he bought it from not asking questions. But so when I got busted back in August of 2020, living in my parents' house, driving an hour and a half from San Antonio, Texas to Decatur, Texas, on the back roads at 3 a.m. in the morning, going through Mineral Wells, which is just essentially nothing but a speed trap town. And yeah, no one is on the road at 3 a.m. in Mineral Wells. So it was very easy just to find an excuse to pull me over. And in all honesty, I believe I was running late to work that day, so I probably was speeding. And anyways, I smoked all my weed the night before in my car because I didn't do that around my parents. They knew. I wasn't secretive about it. I just didn't want to hear anything they had to say about it. I went to my car. That was where it was my private place to do all my smoking and drinking and what have you. It was my place to escape. So I did all that in my car. And mind you, I as I've said on this podcast a few times before, I have no sense of smell. I'm pretty sure I was born without it. So I'm always unaware of how much pot reeks. And smoking, I don't know, upwards of 10 bowls a day in your car, I imagine leaves a certain stench. And so even though I hadn't smoked any pot in my car that day, and I had, smoked it all the night before, I would presume that it reeked of pot when I rolled down the window to, hand over my license and registration. So long story short, I get asked to step out of the car. And for some stupid reason, I had all those pills that I bought from the unnamed drug dealer in my pocket. I don't know why. I guess just felt safer with having them that close to me. But also it was another scenario of like I wasn't going to keep that stuff in my parents' house. I wasn't going to put it anywhere where they could find it, even though they knew. Like I had actually admitted to them, that I was taking them like the week before and that I was going to try to find help. And I was actually looking into, places to go to get help, ironically, that week before I got pulled over. And I even showed the cops on this. I'm sure they could find it on their body cams if they want to, where I was showing them where I was, playing phone tag with doctors. And anyways, I digress. I get pulled out of the car, or asked to step out of the car. They asked if I had anything on me. I immediately was cooperative. I told them exactly what I had on me, where it was, where they would find it. And so, yeah, they pull out the bag of large quantity of pills that I thought were prescription Adderall. And then they had me sit in the car while they just, rifle through it. Or, I'm sorry, sit in the back of the cop car, handcuffed, detain me, essentially, as they, rifle through my my car. They essentially did everything but take the seats out, just to make sure there was nothing else. And of course, they didn't find anything else because I handed myself over on a silver platter. And at the end of that, they wrote me a ticket for weed paraphernalia and gave me the number for the Palo Pinto County District Attorney's Office, and told me that they would be getting in touch with me by Friday, and if not, it was on me to make sure to get in touch with them. I did not get sent to jail that day, mainly for reasons of COVID. They saw I wasn't obviously a threat to them. I wasn't being a threat to anyone else. I was literally on my way to work. And ironically, even though I had a large quantity of illegal pills on me, I was sober. I hadn't taken anything that morning. I was just running late for work. And so they sent me on my way, and I managed to go to work that day and hold it together. I almost lost it, to be honest. I almost had a panic attack. And I turned to this girl that worked next to me and was about to ask, like, you think it would be a big deal if I, said I was sick and left early? But then before I even got to that, she had informed me that her mom had died that day. And so that kind of, got me outside myself, and just was more interested in, consoling her and not making it about myself. So that actually, weirdly enough, got me through that day of not calling in and having a panic attack. However, the next morning, I definitely did have a panic attack. I had to pull over to the side of the road. I called my father, saying I couldn't breathe. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't just go to work pretending that I wasn't potentially going to be looking at facing prison time for the next 2 to 20 years is what having possession of a Schedule II drug is the sentence for that in Texas. Whether or not I agree with that harsh punishment is a totally different topic for another day. But anyway, so we decided, my dad walked me through that panic attack, told me to come home. I called in. I called in sick. I went through short-term disability, and got started talking to somebody in a rehab facility. Unfortunately, at the time, the rehab facility was fully booked up, so I spent a week in the psych ward waiting for the rehab center to open up, a bed to open up, which was actually those beds were pretty damn full during COVID. A lot of people needed help during COVID, and this guy was no exception. But to digress, I ended up spending about a month in rehab before my insurance dropped. And then after that, I spent 3 months living in a sober living place, and going to a week of one-on-one therapy once a week. I want an hour a week, and then also doing, I think it was 4 nights of IOP, which is intensive outpatient therapy for those that aren't in the know. And that was 4 hours, 4 or 5 days out of the week. I was doing that whilst working a 12-hour a day job. So that's 10 hours. It was roughly about 10 hours of therapy. Is that right? Or maybe it was only 2. Yeah. Okay. So maybe that's what it was. It was 2 times a week. I apologize. It's been a couple of years now. And life has been a bit of an insane blur since then. But I remember it was roughly around 10 hours of therapy a week, on top of doing roughly, a 60-hour work week. So that was pretty crazy within itself. And I got a good amount of sobriety under that. I made it for about 6 months, and then I started to have a little slips, but nothing. I mean, it was just enough to where I didn't claim that I have continuous sobriety. However, I was still continuing to work the program. I was still attending AA meetings regularly. I just I didn't allow myself to continuously say that I was going to claim a year. And so, I did that. I worked that program, and I continued to work it throughout the whole time, through 2020, through 21, and yeah, making my way into 2022. And meanwhile, cousin Kieran, who you're probably overhearing here, laughing like the hyena that he is, love him. He got himself a job doing some content creator stuff here in LA, and invited me to live with him. And so I gleefully took the opportunity to do so. And eventually I moved out here. But the week before I decided to move out here, I got pulled over once again around 3 a.m. At this time, I'm living in Denton, Texas, which is not that far away from where I went to rehab at. That's where I attended all my AA meetings and had my structure there. But also it's a college town, and I go to work at 3 a.m. So I get pulled over roughly once every couple of months, and it's a similar scenario. The cop pulls me over, sees that I'm not a college kid or a drunk college kid, kind of has a look of oh, well, this was a waste of time, writes me up some written excuse for pulling me over, which is always bullshit, but it is what it is, and I get sent on my way to work. And I could tell that this was kind of going in that direction when he pulled me over this time. This is like a week before I was getting ready to leave the state, move to another state, moved out here to lovely Los Angeles. The scenario is just pulls me over and kind of sees that I'm not a college kid, and it's going the very similar route that it's always gone. Like I said, it's happened once every few months. So it was a routine, and but this one was taking particularly longer than usual. And he comes back, I want to say, maybe 10 minutes later. So I'm just kind of scratching my head and what the hell's going on? And of course he comes back with my license and registration, all smiles, and says, "Sorry that took so long.
I saw that you had an unconfirmed warrant, and I was just seeing if I needed to arrest you. But anyways, here's your stuff back. Have a nice day. And so obviously I was like, what the hell does that mean? What is an unconfirmed warrant? Still couldn't tell you today what that is. It's unconfirmed apparently. But he did mention that it was from something that happened from something in Mineral Wells. Now, mind you, that week that I got pulled over and the drugs confiscated from me back in 2020, and I would say probably every few months after that, up consistently leading up until learning that I had an unconfirmed warrant, I would repeatedly call the DA's office in Palo Pinto, and each time they told me they don't know who I was. They didn't know who I was. They never heard me. They had nothing on file about me. And I got pulled over by the Palo Pinto Sheriff's Office in Mineral Wells. And I don't remember a Mineral Wells police officer being on the scene. And nobody said anything about getting in touch with the Mineral Wells Police Department. But I guess because of bureaucratic stuff or whatever, for some reason, the warrant came out of Mineral Wells PD. And so I was trying to figure out what was going on there. And of course, nobody's giving me answers at this point. And so I went about hiring a bail bonds company to kind of just look into it and see if they could figure out what was going on, to see if I needed to turn myself in, because if I was going to turn myself in, I'd much rather it just be a walkthrough rather than being stuck in jail X number of how long and waiting to figure out, how long I'm going to be there. What am I up against? And so I had a bail bonds team look into it, and I told them, hey, and I also once again called the Palo Pinto County's district attorney's office, and and once again they told me they didn't know who I was, even though eventually that is where the charges came out of. So yeah, I tell the bail bonds company, hey, look, I just found out I have this unconfirmed warrant. I don't know what that means. However, I've literally been planning for months to move to Los Angeles. And I realized that, to the uneducated eye in my situation, this could look bad. This could look like I just found out that I have a warrant, unconfirmed or not, and decided to flee the state. I do not want that to be how it is perceived. I gave them the address of where I was moving to, and I gave them my contact information so they could reach me. And I don't really think any of that was either put into play on their part, or the office wherever the warrant was coming from just didn't give a shit. One of those two things happened. Anyways, I digress. It's about a month later. I'm already living in Los Angeles at this point, when I finally find out that the warrant has become confirmed. And it was confirmed so quickly, and it just seemed so thrown together, because the warrant for my arrest, or what I got arrested, the charges that were presented the first time, were actually incorrect. The DA's office had to go back and correct my charges for the drugs that I was charged with in post, which could have been one or two things. Well, one was, it was actually, I think, for a strong version of marijuana, which once again all I had was a weed pipe in my car. That was all the paraphernalia I had. But as I later find out, they got the lab results back for the drugs that I got confiscated back in 2020 that I thought was Adderall. I learned this about a week or so before my first court date, where I took the plea deal. And this is the main reason why I decided to take that plea deal. is the drugs that I thought were a Schedule II drug, i.e., like prescription use. And this is also my first offense. I should also say that this is my first and only offense, and will be my only offense with the law. I thought the drugs were one thing, which Schedule II is not a great thing to look at. To be looking at, it still comes with a potential prison sentence in Texas, which the laws on punishing drug offenders in Texas are much harsher than in other states, like let's say, I don't know, California, where one man told me that having a couple of balloons of heroin stuffed up his butt was just seen as a misdemeanor. Just to put it in context. However, these drugs that I thought were a prescription drug, turns out, and again, this is on me, this is on no one else, as much as you can probably hear the disdain in my voice and all that other stuff. I'm just working through this, okay? The drugs that I thought were prescription drugs, turns out, were not prescription drugs at all. They were pressed pills, but it was no prescription Adderall in sight within the test. It was crystal meth and fentanyl laced together. And then my Schedule II drug charge became a Schedule I drug charge. And I could have been looking at doing much more severe time. And that is a nightmare for a guy who looks and sounds like Mr. Rogers' legitimate grandson. So I flew back, by the way, and August 21st, I flew in to do what I thought was going to be my walkthrough, but my bail bonds team didn't do their due diligence. It was a whole headache thing of where I hired one bail bonds team, but then I guess they didn't want to step on some other guy's toes, so they transferred the bond to another guy who I guess thought that bail bonds team did all the homework of setting up the walkthrough, which they did not. So I fly back for what I think is just going to be a walkthrough on August 21st, 2022. And no one had any idea I was coming. I almost did not make it out of that jail cell because nobody informed them of that. And what one bail bonds had told me was that my bail was going to be about $1,000 for a $10,000 bond. Turns out the bond was $30,000, which made my bail $3,000. Which fortunately, I had worked a machining job for a couple of years, and when I had gotten ready to move out to LA, I had roughly a little over 10 grand saved, which in hindsight, I'm glad I had that saved because it all went straight to legal fees. That money is gone, and it went so quick for these reasons in particular. And that bond company, that bail bondsman, almost didn't take the bond. They thought I was going to become a flight risk at that point because the bond had tripled. And so I would have been possibly stuck there until, either I got the plea deal, which was on November 30th, or if I wanted to take it to trial. It's another reason why I immediately jumped at the plea deal. If I didn't, I was going to be looking at, setting up a trial that was going to take about a year's process. And as I said, I burned through my money very quickly, just setting up a legal team, getting a bail bond, paying for a bail, flight tickets. All that stuff racked up very quickly, and I was not going to be able to afford to fly back and forth to Texas on multiple occasions throughout the year just to possibly lose a drug offending case in Texas, which, delightful tidbit, dear listener, for the way that the criminal justice system works in Texas. Not only is your verdict of guilt determined by the jury in Texas, at least when it comes to, I can only speak in my experience, but I was also informed that not only do they determine whether or not you're guilty, they determine what your sentencing will be. And now, I love my small town Texas people. But when it comes to drugs, I don't necessarily think that they have the most open mind in regards to that. So I wasn't really about to also risk my freedom when the potential for me to not become a felon was put on the table. Though now, yes, I'm looking at a lot of years on probation. And ironically, I am on paper. It's a bit of a gray area because the plea deal I accepted was it's called deferred adjudication, meaning that right now, like I have all my rights still as a citizen, other than I got to be able to pass a drug test, which is fine. That's fine. I've been working on that for the past 2.5 years, anyways. So hey, more motivation from that. Great. Can't own a gun. Don't own one. Didn't really have any plans to. Don't really have anything against owning one. Just wasn't for me. And so that didn't really change anything. The only thing that's a bit of a pain is that even though I'm in this gray area of when my probation is complete, nothing will be coming up. No felony charges will be coming up in a background check. However, whilst I still am on probation, that stuff still comes up. And the fact that COVID is not being taken into account, but the fact that this is all stems back to something that happened in 2020. No one is seeing that on paper. They think that, oh, well, this clearly just happened in August 21st of 2022. Like, this is a recent thing that happened. It's like, no, this is going on over 2.5 years of I've been bettering my life and working and taking steps and going through my own personal hell to try to improve my situation in my life, and I'm still getting judged for something that happened years ago. That's a bit of a struggle. But you know what? It's all been a learning experience, and it's all been for the better. Like, to be honest, I can go into bitching about all the stuff that I'm dealing with right now, all day long, about the struggles of finding a new place, and I was waiting on to find an application to be sent to me so I can move into a new place here on the 1st. Gal just texted me back. I'm gonna hope. I haven't read it yet, but I'm gonna hope that it's good news. Because at the end of the day, all I could say is that shit's gonna happen regardless, whether you want it to or you don't want it to. The only thing I have control over when it comes to people, places, and things is my attitude. And it's such a cliche to say that, and I know that a younger version of myself would totally scoff at that, but sometimes cliches become cliches because of the goddamn truth. And when you got nothing else to help keep you motivated, to help keep you wanting to move forward with your life, cling on to those motherfucking cliches and don't even give a goddamn about anybody else judging you for them. Okay? You can take that shit to the bank. That one you could take to the bank. I'm standing behind that statement. It has been a windy, hellish road getting here, but I'm so fucking grateful that I am here. I'm so glad that this happened the way that it did. Because if I get charges pressed on me back in 2020, it would have been nearly impossible for me to get out here in LA. The only reason that I'm permitted to stay out here in LA is because I had that time in between where I moved out here, I had a place to live, I had a job, I had a visible source of income. They don't just let people move from one state to another when they're on probation, FYI. It's a whole rigmarole, and I've been dealing with it for the past 3 months. But you know what? As hellish as it's been, I've been victorious over it. And I'm actually on this uphill battle. I'm finally getting to the downward slope. I just got to finish a little bit of community service. And, just another 469 hours, no big deal. honestly, it could be worse. And once I finish that, all I gotta do is check in once a month. I just gotta go in and scan my hand, let them know that I, don't have any more charges coming my way. I didn't have any, I didn't commit any offenses or anything. I haven't had any run-in with the cops, i.e. I haven't fucked up my life any further. And that's all I gotta do. I just gotta go place my hand on a scanner, show that I checked in, and then I'm back to my life. And it's a fucking awesome life out here. Once again, I could be bitching about 1,000 different things. But because I came out here and I got involved in the AA program, which, again, I'm not selling this thing. Everyone do what they want, whatever they need to do in life to get where you want to be in life. I'm just saying that sometimes incredible things can happen when you least expect it. And I feel like that's what's kind of happened here. I got a lot of good friends out of there. I met a guy, and I'm not guaranteeing anything to anyone. I'm a lucky son of a bitch. I don't know what to tell you. I met a guy out there that I'm becoming good friends with. He recommended me to his agent, or his manager, and now I've signed with that manager, and I'm getting auditions out the wazoo. And you know what? I don't think I would have got that connection. Just smoking weed and boozing and doing nothing with my life out here. So I'm super grateful, and I'm super motivated, and I'm looking forward to reconnecting with your sweet, sweet bottoms in season 2, baby. And with that, I'd like to say, as always, como se llama hermana? Lo siento, palapento. Good night, all my sweet peeps in North Texas, and East Texas, and South Texas, and let's go ahead and throw in West Texas, all the Texas. Sweet, sweet dreams. And to my fellow Los Angelos, let's fuck shit up, baby. This has been the season finale of the Big Boys Podcast.
Big Boys is a podcast produced by Not So Funny or Proud Productions. The team consists of co-hosts, co-producers, and co-editors Brian Hickey and John Sorrells, better known as John the Great. For more information about the duo or this show, please visit us at bigboyspodspot.com. Or feel free to take a gander at our production page, notsofunnyorproud.com. Look us up on social media and follow us at Big Boys Pod Spot. New episodes drop every Thursday on every popular podcast hosting platform known to man. So please be sure to like, subscribe, vibe, describe, contrive, confide, collide, abide, preside, tell your tribe, and most importantly, do prescribe. Me and Elixir for talking out the side of my neck.